Now, I'm super excited about our next guest joining us. We have them coming from Boston, Massachusetts today, leaders from Mega International with us. Hello there, we have Raashi Bhatnagar and Yannick Raashi. Raashi serves as pre-sales engineer for Mega International. She specializes in helping organizations meet their digital transformation goals with Mega's HopeX platform. Previously, she has worked with Gilead Sciences, Ford Motor Company, and IA Financial Group, helping them use Mega HopeX platforms in optimized fashions. She studied Technology Information Management at Jack Baskin School of Engineering and is currently working towards her PhD in Organizational Psychology from Harvard Extension. Now, Yannick is with us. He has worked for Mega International in various roles for 12 years and currently serves as the VP and Managing Director of North American Markets. He has worked with hundreds of companies in EMEA and North America, helping them use the HopeX platform to realize measurable success in digital transformations. Yannick holds master's degrees from IE Paris Sorbonne Business School in IT methods applied to enterprise management and information systems and knowledge management. Yannick, what a pleasure to have you with us. We're very much looking forward to your presentation today.
Thank you very much, Jose, for this introduction, this very good introduction, I must say, and thank you to BTOES for hosting our webinar today. So today, the topic that we would like to share with you is about composability and how composability will help to drive speed, flexibility, and resilience. And of course, the main topic that we would like to address today with you is how enterprise architects can help on that topic and how enterprise architects will be used, I would say, in the fashion to really help drive this composability, this speed, flexibility, and resilience during this transformation. So I'm not going to introduce ourselves again. Jose did that very, very well. Here you have our pictures, but you're going to see us in the camera too. But we can dive in directly to our topic today. So before going within the business topic of the day, a little about Mega, one slide. So some of you may know us already. So Mega is a well-established and fast-growing EA software vendor. We have approximately more than 2,000 customers worldwide, in more than 52 countries. We have a lot of experience, but we're quite young also in the spirit, I would say, for what we do. So quite an interesting place to work and to work with also if you are our customers. The bottom part of this slide is even more interesting, I must say, because we've been Gartner Forrester leaders for many, many years now. For Gartner, it's been more than 12 years now that we've been in the leaders quadrant. But what we are, I would say, the most proud of right now is really to be seen as the customer choice for partner for Gartner Peer Insight, because this is our customers talking about us and saying that they really like our tooling, they really like the way we help them solve their problems. So this is really what we're very proud of when our customers say a good thing about us. So I hope you will see today that we have a lot of things to share with you and that you will contact us for more information. Okay, so the topic of today. So today we want to talk about architecting for business composability. So within the next 30 minutes, I would say, we would like to share with you a couple of things. So we'd like to share with you a definition. Maybe not everybody is familiar with the topic of composability. It's quite recent. It has been promoted many, many times right now. And even though we're not super familiar with it, you will see that enterprise architect will be familiar with that because it uses the concept of enterprise architecture that have been established for a long time. We want also to share with you how EA will be able to help that topic to become a reality, because you're going to see it's a business and IT topic, and at the intersection you have the enterprise architect that will be able to help. And we also want to share with you some guidelines and methodology that we have built within Mega to help drive this composability from the business perspective, going down to the IT. And when I start this kind of presentation, I always like to use this quote because I think it's very, very true to what we're going to say today, but globally in the world of enterprise architecture. Whenever you have a problem in front of you, I really think that it's super important to take the time to think about how you're going to approach the problem and then execute on that problem for greatly less time, I would say, than the time you have spent to think about that. Might be French, probably, this way of thinking, but it's very true to see to see something like that. So as composability comes in, we wanted really to think about why companies are trying and are going to I would say composability right now. What is the key mention right now? So globally right now, in the wake of COVID-19, but you can think about many disruption that will happen in your market, in multiple markets. We've seen that somehow we will be in new reality. Things have been shaken down somehow with new ways of doing business, of course, but we are now in this new reality with the experience of what happened in 2020. So we all understood that the change is basically the new normal right now. We need to quickly adapt to what our customer wants, the customer needs. We see behavioral changes. We see that the customers, they want multi-experience. The change, the speed of the change there has been very, very big. So in previous webinars at Mega, maybe you followed that also, we talked about how we could be more prepared, being more proactive instead of being reactive to market change. This is really what we would like to talk about today. This preparedness, this proactivity to be prepared will really lead us to be more resilient, to have a more clearer competitive advantage there. It's really important to see that, and we'll see how composability will help you drive this preparedness of architecture. For us, I've talked to many customers, and sometimes we have customers coming to us and say, okay, my CEO, my CIO wants me to say, okay, the architects group, I want you to add a new AI function on that application, a new voice function on that application. How do we react? How do we do that? How do we create this piece? And you will see that with composability, with the way of thinking of composability, it's going to be clear how you will be able to shift and to be able to create more time to market, fashionably time to market application that you'll be able to use. So first of all, I would like to define a little bit what we hear now, what we mean by business composability. So by business composability, first thing first is that composable thinking is a way of thinking into which we think that everything is decomposable, first thing, but moreover, it's that things are composable, that you'll be able to deassemble things, but reassemble them in another fashion so that they can serve maybe another purpose. So when you think about business and IT, we're going to come to that in a minute, but the thinking is about that. Everything is decomposable and you can recompose them. So applied to the business, this means that the business can be broken down into smaller pieces that can be better managed, that can be more resilient because you know which pieces you have to manage if you have an impact on your customer base. And it really helps you understand better how you're going to support the business with technology. So this famous business and IT alignment. And so one element of the business composability that we're going to talk about today is the capability, amongst others. We're going to have a piece on that. And this piece, of course, the capability, that's something that the EAs are very familiar with, that you can see that we can break down these capabilities in multiple pieces and interchangeable building blocks that we'll be able to see. So that's the piece that is going to be applied to the business and applied to the technology. That means that our applications can be broken down into sub pieces that you can recompose, decompose them, and that's what we will share with you today also in the presentation. So Raashi, can you walk us through the first piece of this business composable side with the business capabilities?
Let's go ahead and actually start by taking an analogy. So we're going to actually talk a little bit about Legos quite quickly. And let's say you actually want to buy a Star Wars Lego set because you're expecting to make Darth Vader's helmet. Now, halfway through this experience of trying to compose this helmet, you decide you're going through and finding all the right pieces and you're following all of the instructions, and you realize that what you really want to do is create an airplane. So you do just that. You use the same pieces that you would have to create that helmet, but instead you go ahead and create a little Lego plane. Composable architecture is a lot like that. You have a common set of components. In the Lego world, we normally think of that as blocks. In the enterprise world, we think about them as assets. And by using a finite set of enterprise parts, which include people, technologies, capabilities, applications, etc., you can construct an arbitrary number of artifacts. And we're going to be walking through a few of those examples today. But really, the point that I wanted to run home is when we shift our approach towards composability, we start to embed adaptability into our design, and we enable the enterprise to plan for many futures. So when you actually buy, Darth Vader's Lego set, but you desire to create an airplane, you are now equipped to be able to do that. Let's go ahead and actually take a look at the 4 steps for architecting for business composability. The first is going to be understanding the ecosystem. Now here, you are really focused on creating a baseline of your inventory, basically understanding what do you have. The second is assessing your need for composability. In this step, you want to become more intentional. What is it exactly that you want to focus on? What parts of your business do you anticipate change in? Where do you want to increase efficiency? In the Lego example, this is really where you begin to create your associations and linkages. Our third step is architecting, which is understanding the underlying architecture, or how do things actually group together. And the fourth is build and repeat. And at this stage, you're really thinking about how do you want to begin planning for your future. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into our first step, which is understanding. And here, when we're talking about creating a baseline, really we're turning towards our enterprise architects and the inventory of capabilities and technologies and processes that we've built up over time to understand what do we currently do and how are we currently addressing the needs of our customers. To do this, we're going to take a look at a few different artifacts, including capability maps and customer journeys. And we're going to look at what we can leverage to to actually take it further, be able to decompose, and like Yannick was saying, recompose in the future. At this stage, it's also important for me to mention to you that composable architecture is an enhancement to your current business architecture and not a replacement. We are not interested in selecting, in removing all the aspects of work and the different silos or parts of your organization that exist. Really, what we want to do is select the parts of your business that are going to benefit the most from composability and enhance them to become more resilient. So let's look a little bit into our first artifact today, which is understanding business capabilities. Now, a business capabilities map's focus is to break down your business capabilities into smaller, more manageable elements so that you can begin to identify the varying rates of change and needs for agility. So all capability maps might not be equal. You're going to have some capabilities where it stands out that this capability is very essential for your business, and that's really what we're trying to draw out anyways. We want to understand where do we need to prioritize our work for composability. Then we begin to compare the assessments to discern how critical is this particular capability to metrics like efficiency, cost, and technological stability. And lastly, we are then trying to understand the technologies, processes, and people that support this capability, because we want to gain a full perspective of what's going to be not only the effort that's required to convert this particular capability, but what's also the entire scope, different touch points, and places of impact. So again, we can begin to prioritize those aspects better. For our second artifact today, we're going to actually be diving into customer journeys. Now, customer journeys, they really help us identify a very important perspective because they are your lens into how your customer is experiencing and interacting with your company. So when we create a customer journey map, we're really trying to assess where can we provide a better and more personalized service to our customers. And by understanding this relationship between your customer journeys and the different resources involved, like technologies, processes, applications, etc., again, you're able to get that fuller scope of impact that you're looking for. And then this information also helps you understand where you are today. And again, create that prioritization or that need of urgency for where do we want to actually start pivoting our mindset towards composability. Now, these were just two examples of inventories we talked about in the terms of capability maps and customer journeys. You could have other inventories today that your enterprise architects are helping to maintain. Popular ones include applications, processes, technologies, etc. Really, essentially, the inventories that you want to look at are the ones that you feel are part of your core business and necessary for transformation, and even perhaps need composability to be part of their design. So that wraps up our first stage. For our second stage, scoping the need for composability, here we want to focus on identifying that specific scope we were talking about. So everything that we took in our first step, creating that baseline, understanding our inventories, now it's actually coming down to think about questions like, where do we need a faster time to market? In this stage, you're really going to be taking all of those inventories that you cultivated and begin to assess them to understand what needs to be prioritized when and why specifically. So here I do want to take a quick moment to just pivot right back to that business capability map we started with, but actually take a look at the assessment portion of it. So here you're able to see that the assets within your capabilities, your assets which include application, people, processes, etc. And all of these assets, again, these are the ones that are required to make this capability work. They have an assessment that's actually been attached to them using color coordination or perhaps in a HOPEX world, symbols. But really what these assessments are helping you understand is they are answering questions like, have we identified the right kind of asset to support what we need from this capability? And then is that asset actually performing up to speed? Or is it creating certain bottlenecks? You're basically trying to answer questions like, are we avoiding redundant work? Where do we need to increase our efficiency and our resiliency? And these are the kind of questions that your assessments can really help you answer. Additionally, assessments can also help you understand the health of your particular assets when it comes to efficiency, cost, and impact of those particular assets to your capability at large. And again, this kind of dual-layered assessment enables you to really understand what needs to be not only with the capability that you prioritize first, but that specific application or process that you start to prioritize first within that capability itself. For our next use case, we're going to take a look at the world of processes and really just start to understand that once you have your inventory of processes, you're able to then add another layer of assessment onto them and start to analyze for efficiency, performance, business value, risk, execution. Again, the assessment metrics are based off of factors that are important for your company or your industry to be able to better understand the health of your assets. When you are able to perform these kinds of assessments, you not only better understand how the process supports the business, but again, what are those critical pain points or areas that can be enhanced for resiliency? Now, for example, in this process that you're seeing here, you can have processes, in the heat map that you're seeing at the very top, you can have processes that rank very high in efficiency and performance, and they indicate processes that are actually pretty well taken care of by your company at the moment. And perhaps they're already resilient in nature. So really, you might want to start focusing and shifting your focus down into the lower rank of the spectrum, where you have processes that are not as efficient, that are not performing as well, and might actually be creating bottlenecks for your company, but are definitely very necessary for you guys to be able to adapt and pivot a little bit quicker. So in the end, really, we leverage these kinds of assessments to ask better questions on what is happening within our enterprise. And by doing so, we begin to peel back the layers, getting to the core of the business and the prime use case for composability. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Yannick Raashi.
Thank you very much, Raashi, for these first two steps. So we understand clearly now that composability has to be scoped, based on business assets, based on assessment that you've been making in the company, that you will not make the whole company composable. This is very clear. So definitely there are choices to be made based on anticipation of needs, based on markets, but it's very critical that these choices are dictated by, I would say, the market, and that really it's the customer who are telling you where you need to be more flexible and so on. So the idea that I would like to do now is, when we have scoped one piece of the enterprise that we need to have more flexibility, more time to market, better time to market, let's say, how do we do that? How do we take an application and how do we represent this new architecture that we're going to build very in the IT architecture sense, I would say. So we're going to talk about PBCs. You will see what it is. We're going to talk about API. That's a bit more common. And we're going to talk about IT architecture right now. So the idea that we have here is, when we are going into the application, the IT landscape, the goal here is to create a situation where the IT architect can define a set of pieces that are independent and that deliver a clear business value. That's very important, delivering a clear business value. So these pieces that are defined like that are called, in the business composability world, they are called packaged business capabilities, or PBCs. I'm going to talk about PBCs a little bit in that section. It's quite an interesting thing, right? Because you think about that, it's an IT component called a business capability, packaged business capability. It's interesting to see here the connection that we're going to have with the business components to the business capability set. In the pure definition, as you can see here on the screen, the packaged business capability are encapsulated software components that represent a well-defined business capability, and very important, that are recognizable by, as such by a business user. This is very important. So the architects may start to break down pieces. So you take an application, you start to break down pieces, and now comes a very good question, right? What is inside my application, or what is outside my application? So the pieces will be broken down like that, and it's not an easy topic. This is really a topic where architects will put in their own, I would say, ideas and their own knowledge and kind of know-how into breaking down the things regarding 4 architecting principles that might be very familiar to you, because enterprise architect is really about that: modularity, autonomy, orchestration, and discovery. We're going to talk about these 4 pieces in my next slide. The global idea here is also about APIs. It's one of the key points, because as much as you will be breaking down pieces, you need to reassemble them. And the way to reassemble them, to be able to glue them together, are with the APIs. And we're going to see within OPEX, within, I would say, our design here, that you can see on the left side, a bit small, but I'm sure you can see it. You're going to see how we will be able to recompose all of these pieces, and how they will be able to fit together. So here on the left side, you have one example of a packaged business capability that encapsulates APIs on the left side. You have events, requests that comes into that software piece, and it encapsulates many things, such as services that are inside, microservices, services. We use different terms, and here you will be able to define data that are encapsulated within that particular packaged business capability. That's the pure definition. You will be able to figure out which pieces you put within your packaged business capability like that. Then comes the recomposing of this IT landscape, right? So you have broken down many things. You have decided which services are going into which packaged business capability. And now it's the time to create your global system that is going to answer to one of your client customer, one of your client requests. Sorry about that. And for that, modularity will be a key point of your composability. That's obvious when we see that. But the key point is that modularity has to be derived from the business in that case. So that means that at some point, if you have, for instance, the example that I have right there, I have a customer package business capability, an airport package business capability, another package business capability. That's an example for an airport company, for instance. So here you can see directly that if ever you have something to change, something that's going to be impacting a specific package business capability, you're going to be able to do that within this order of governance, within this governance package, without impacting the rest of your system, because you are well, I would say, connected with your APIs on the other end. So very important to understand that these pieces, the modularity that you're going to have to be business oriented for sure, and that when you will be able to reassemble them, they have to be autonomous enough so that you can make the changes as you want to add an AI function, a voice function in one piece without impacting the other pieces of the software. Now, this is really where you're going to find the agility that you need to be able to change your architecture without making too many changes within and impacting the changes on the other IT pieces that you have there. And we have here on the left side a notation that we have in our platform that really helps drive that composability on many layers and helps drive the API connection that you're going to have between your multiple packaged business capabilities. And finally, we talked about composability, right? So we decompose, we create our package business capability on many layers, we glue them together. We talked a bit about APIs for sure, but these APIs are very important, right? So these APIs that you can see right there, you have to talk about the orchestration. How will it happen when you have another component of your IT that's going to be calling that API? What is going to happen? What are the data that are going to be exchanged? In which order? How are you going to do that? This is all that we call the API design, the API orchestration, and that is going to be very, very important for this, I would say, kind of choreography that you're going to have between your multiple pieces of the IT. So this means here that, for instance, if somebody called an API like that, you want to be able to have a pattern-based view like this that explain how do we start, in which case do we send this data, that data, and of course, this is all connected back as the enterprise architecture would think to the data models and so on and so forth, so that you would be able to connect all the pieces together. It goes with that. But the main idea is that here you really want to have a pattern-based design of your APIs to be able to understand how all of these pieces will be fitting together and what is going to happen when you call all of these pieces. And then at the end of the day, we take the final step back, and the solution that we have been created all along will be, will be now connected to our ecosystem. So we started by designing this piece right there, that is our package business capability, and that this piece right now is part of a global system that is used right there, and that we can identify now which kind of partners are going to interact with our system, which kind of customers are going to do which kind of request to our system. And now we can see that whenever we have a request in our system, we can identify quickly which part of the system is going to be impacted, and have the agility, the decomposability. You're decomposable enough right now to identify which pieces you need to change or add and so on, and to glue it with an API to be able to go fast in the time to market, I would say. So here it is really important to understand that going up, and up, you will be able to recompose. You will be able to have a catalog of package business capability that you will be able to reuse and put within your solutions. So really to be able to compose the solution as you see fit all along to follow the needs of your customers. So we've been now talking about the architecting piece. I'm just looking at the time. I still have a couple of minutes to talk about the build, the to-be state. So globally, how do we tie that to the projects, the programs, to the agile programs? Of course, because many companies are going to are working on agile project management. And so for that, we have also a framework to help our customers to I would say, go from the enterprise architect vision with the capabilities, the value streams, the business processes that Raashi presented to us, to go down to the solution architecture that I presented, and to go down to the local dev team who will be able to develop the the right pieces of software that the architects have defined. So of course here we see the enterprise architect role is there to define the guardrails, the business objectives, where do we need composability, to do what do we need to achieve. We will define the value streams, the capabilities, the customer journeys, and all of that will influence which are the pieces of the solution architecture that we are going to modify, that we are going to have as an impact for this composability. So here, for instance, you're going to be able to see that this will influence our program increments, where we will be able to deliver multiple versions of our architecture for one application, from the start where it's quite monolithic to the end where it's quite decomposed with multiple pieces and providing the flexibility that we need. So now the big piece is to understand how do we really connect with the local dev team to make sure that their architectural runway is actually aligned with that. And so on that, we've created, I would say, a framework in which the architects, the solution architects, will provide every time the N+1 program increment. So when the architects will work on a program increment 1, it's going to be on the next iteration for the dev team. And then at some point, when the developments are being done, we'll reconcile the next version of the solution architect, so that at any point, we'll be able to have an alignment between the architecture and the local dev team. And that is going to be a work that will work in workshops. The tooling that we propose, of course, helps on that methodology, but we have ways to work with that and to help our customers building these kinds of models. So to summarize, we've seen that we have 4 steps to help our company become more composable, to drive resiliency, agility, time to market. That is based on creating a baseline of business assets, scope the need for composability by assessment. Where do we need to be agile? Where do we need to be more flexible? Where do we need the faster time to market? Being able to help on architecting the to-be states. How do we break down the IT components? How do we glue them with APIs? How do we build the patterns for them to be connected and glued together? And finally, a method to actually build a to-be state in which we will be able to, through agile method, right, to align the local dev team and what the architect have been building all along for that. Some tips and tricks that we've been gathering all along the project that we do with our customers is, first of all, do not do it all at once, right? For sure, it's something that you need to scope. Probably there is a specific area of your business that needs more flexibility. So we have to understand, assess, architect, and build. We have to think about combination, what goes together from a business point of view. How do we encapsulate and glue the components through the integration patterns, APIs? And of course, that cannot be said enough. The IT decomposition has to be business oriented, so that the business can recognize the PCs and they can actually work with the IT architect in the same language, so that the connection goes way more smoothly over there. We talk sometimes about fusion teams. I'm not going to go into that today, but this is really what it is about. So the key takeaways, if I can summarize that into this slide. So at Mega, we have a 4-step methodology that EA can leverage to drive composability thinking. Moreover, we have a lot of playbooks, a lot of I would say knowledge to share on that topic that honestly we started to cover today, but we were very high level because of the time also. But do not hesitate to come to us, ask questions. We're more than happy to share more knowledge on this topic as we are researching on that. Second piece is that the composable architecture is an enhancement to your current business architecture, not a replacement. What you have done today, if you have started to do business architecture, will be reused for that way of thinking. So continue on that, and we might need to plug in the IT architecture and this composable thinking into that. Assess whether the company could benefit from composability. That's based on KPIs that you're going to have, APIs like time to market, like transformation, customer satisfaction, and so on. And you'll, of course, architecting in reusable building blocks that we know, and EAs will of course play a key role into business composable project. And I have to say that when I started to work on that composable project, I was directly thinking that every architect that I meet right now at my customer base, they already have a composable mindset. It's really a way right now to go to the business, to connect the business PCs to the IT PCs, and really start to close the gap and to talk the same language at the end of the day. So to finish with that, so if ever you're interested in that topic, do not hesitate to contact us. You have your email address there. You can start a free trial with our tool that I took some snapshot from today if you're interested into that. And do not hesitate to contact us. I'm more than happy to share more knowledge on that topic. And so with that, this concludes our presentation. Thank you everybody for attending it. I hope you find it interesting, and let's see if we have some questions from the audience.
Fantastic, Yannick. Thank you, Yannick. Thank you, Raashi. What a great presentation on this concept of composability, which we had a lot of people early on asking. You know, before you got into composability, people were talking about what is composability. You know, is he gonna define what it is? Like, calm down, people. He's gonna get to it, and you got to it, and you did a fantastic job of showing how composability fits onto the entire process. And enterprise architecture, as you said, it's not a replacement; it's an enhancement to the enterprise architecture strategies that most are familiar with. There is a quick question on definition on some of the audience ask what if you could repeat the definition of PBC. What is a PBC?
Correct. Let me just grab my notes to say exactly the same thing. So the PBC is an encapsulated software component. So it's a software component that encapsulates multiple smaller pieces. We can talk about microservices, but I know that multiple ways of defining that too. But it encapsulates multiple smaller pieces, and it has to be business oriented. It has to be talking to a business user. So we talk about order PBC, invoice PBC, and not, you know, at a granular definition as we often see, I would say, in the agile world, when we define too many granular microservices that sometimes the business does not really understand because it's too granular.
Very good, very good. Thank you for that clarification there. And Yannick, one of the questions, this is a multi-layered question here, so you can take it piece by piece. But you know, if I go back, even in my own, you know, some in the audience may have mentioned this, but in my own experience as an executive for an engineering, construction, and energy company, there was always a bit of a struggle a few years back with the concept of interoperability, which is this idea that software can work in modules, and we don't integrate them, but we can actually make them interoperable. And this is not a new concept. This is an old concept. However, it was really hard to do, because when you get into corporations, all they want to do is to integrate stuff. They want to, you know, create this, you know, almost customized solutions to what they do, and they start integrating here and there, and then to kind of untangle that is really hard to make it interoperable. How does the concept of composability builds or differs from the concept of interoperability, if you will? And then, you know, there's a lot of changes have happened, I think, with APIs and other things that allow interoperability to be easier today than they used to be. But I assume there's still a challenge as you work with organizations, that they have things that are pretty integrated, and it's hard to make them, you know, into pieces that you can connect in you know, throughout the enterprise. Curious about how do you deal with that challenge?
It is a challenge for sure. It requires discipline. That's the main idea. I mean, when you define your pieces of IT, it can be PBC, it can be a microservice, it can be an application, it can be a monolithic application even. It's not important in that case. You have to integrate them. The integration, I see many times that we create APIs, you know, a lot of APIs, and sometimes way too much. The way the architects will be able to help is to define patterns of API and to respect them. And what I always say to my customer is, before developing anything as a new API, come and see the architect. They have the catalog of API. They have the catalog of what you need. Ask the question, hey, Mr. Enterprise Architect, what if I needed the order number for my product? What kind of APIs do you have to do that? Oh yeah, sure, we have that standard API, we can use it, we have a pattern-based thing. Here is the technical JSON file that you need to use for that. It's perfect, but it's really, I would say, a discipline to say, come and see the enterprise architect. They have to be the guardrails of the developments. And sometimes I see people are like, yeah, it's too difficult, it takes too long, it slows down the process of development. It's not true. At the end of the day, EA will always help to fasten the development process because you will be able to reuse the pieces, reuse the connection. So composability builds on that concept of interoperability from a technical point of view, but prescribes the way of reusing these APIs for multiple purposes.
That's very helpful. Really great insights. And as you mentioned, good enterprise architecture requires a level of discipline that people try to push back against, because who wants to be disciplined, right? We want just quick solutions to our problems.
We want to be fast.
That's right. And you point out something that's incredibly important. So with respect to that, what do you see as effective governance structures in organizations? There is so much ownership to be taken here at the process level, at the application level, at the data level. How do you, from a practical standpoint, what do you see out there that's like, that looks like good governance that's working for making all of these pieces come together?
It's interesting. I had a pure blog just based on that, on the governance on Agile. It's super interesting topic. And I see both ways, right? I see companies that have been going to EA a lot, and then suddenly you find yourself in an EA in an ivory tower, building kind of diagrams, not really useful because they're not applicable for the development team. I see companies also going towards the pure development team, and there is no architecture, and suddenly you find yourself with thousands of microservices that cannot be used because you don't know what they do. It's actually in the middle. It's always the same. It's somewhere in the middle is the right answer. For me, the good governance that I see is EA provide guardrails, provides what we call the intentional architecture. I'm showing a word like that right now, but again, we have blogs that explains all of that. So intentional architecture are from the solution architecture point of view. And then you will have the developer who will be able to build their own solution, creatively build the way to build that intentional architecture that the architect have been doing. The architect should not be in charge of building the technical solution. That's still the development team and the technical architects. The solution architects have to be prescribing the way it's connected, the patterns, the technologies, the global picture that can be then reused as a guardrail for the dev team. And when you find that kind of alignment, then you have a successful enterprise architecture practice in your company.
Very good. And as you mentioned, it requires vision, it requires the right thinking, and quite a bit of discipline to keep on that journey and stay within the right boundaries. Arizu Sabet, who, if I recall correctly, is based in Boston, Massachusetts, right there. So Arizu, you probably can just walk over there and say hello to Yannick. She says, great presentation, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and insights with us today. And she's curious about your thoughts on the similarities or differences between this concept of composability that you have and systems thinking. How do they, are analogous or different from each other?
At Mega, it's very funny too, as a not funny, but very interesting as a question, because at Mega we have been having a system of system approach from the beginning. It's our way of thinking. We're ingrained into that. If you use our software, you will see that perfectly. And the concept of composability, again, builds completely on that, creating systems of systems. And we use the SOS, system of system thinking, to build on that composability thinking. The system of system thinking is way broader, I have to say, because it's thinking that everything can be in something else, right? Basically. And in that case, it's exactly the same kind of mindset. Composability, for me, the way I see it, the way I see that applied to the enterprise architect, I would say, I'm not saying that I have the global definition there, but I see it more going towards applied to the business architecture. This is really where I see a bit the difference. It's kind of a system approach applied to the business architecture world.
That's a great way. That's a great analogy, a great way of explaining that. Yannick, we are out of time. I clearly could talk about this all day because there's so much depth to this topic. We really appreciate you. You and Raashi did a fantastic job in showing the big picture and showing the pieces that are required to drive greatness in the enterprise architecture. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise with our global audience today.
Thank you very much, Jose, and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mega International sharing their expertise, concepts of composability, the concepts of they're so critical for robust enterprise architecture systems. Very, very good presentation and insights. Now we're going to be taking a break now, and when we come back at the top of the hour, we're going to switch gears to an industry practitioner that you do not want to miss. I'm talking about Bill Wong, who is a leader for artificial intelligence and data analytics at Dell. Bill is going to come to us directly from Toronto, and he's going to discuss how to architect an artificial intelligence ecosystem. You do not want to miss Bill's session. He always provides a wealth of information about market research and what they're seeing from a very practical standpoint. He's very good at separating hype from artificial intelligence applications that are creating value today. And you're going to have access to all of that plus some when we meet Bill at the top of the hour and we reveal architecting an artificial intelligence ecosystem. Thank you for now.